So Sharon, how did you transition from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur?
Kathleen, that's a great question. So I was a lawyer. I had been employed as in lawyer lingo as an associate in a big law firm and then in a much smaller law firm. And then a group of us broke off and started our own firm. And so technically, I was the entrepreneur along with my business partners at that time. But I'll be honest, we never ran it like a business. And so when I decided to go out on my own, so it was just my law firm, I was the only lawyer, but I had, great staff. I suddenly had to figure out how to run it like a business and how to become the entrepreneur. So, I say sometimes it's when you become they. You as the employee always talk about them, them being your bosses, the people in charge. And then suddenly you find out, oh, wait, I've become they. I am they. And so I had to get up a learning curve very quickly. But that was what happened. I got to the point where I really wanted to do certain things in the law that my partners wanted to do other things. We had an amicable divorce of our business. And that was the point at which I realized, I better figure out this whole business side because that's going to be very important. And that's when I really felt like I became the entrepreneur.
That story is fabulous, Sharon, because your story highlights the journey that most people go on, starting out as the employee, like you described, and then starting a business. But really at that point, it's more of a solopreneur mindset. Even if you've got other
Correct.
people working with you, it's not until you get to that, okay, I'm going to put business systems in place and maybe hire some help and those kind of things that we switch into entrepreneur mode. There's a 3-step process that I see a lot of people go through.
Yes. Absolutely. And it's no different for lawyers.
we're all made the same.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Well, this is the Fearless Climbers Business Show, and I'm your business coach and host, Kathleen Reese-Jubenville. Today, I'm talking with Sharon Christie, the business coach of Bold Women Lawyers. Sharon, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Kathleen.
So tell us a little bit about who your ideal client is.
Sure. And so, as I said in the introduction, I went out on my own as a lawyer, ran my own law firm for 16 years, and reached a point where I wanted to do something different. And I very specifically wanted to be the person that I needed when I was trying to build and grow my business, but I couldn't find. And that's what led me to the work I do now as a business coach. So my ideal client is a woman attorney, either in solo practice, meaning she's the only lawyer, she has a team, but she's the only lawyer in the practice, or it's a small practice, usually less than 5 lawyers, usually 2 or 3. And so woman lawyer in that size practice who is struggling to put together the systems that she needs to either generate a steady stream of great clients or to manage the business processes, that has hit a certain level in her growth and is stuck and can't figure out what's the next step she needs to take.
And so how is that manifesting itself in her practice? What specific problems is she having?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of areas where clients come to me because they're having problems. One is getting the right kind of clients, getting their ideal clients. So they may have a lot of clients or they may not. They may be struggling to get clients, but they're not sure how to get the clients that they need. So we're really focused very much on their message and their marketing. When I say business process, it could be anything from intake. So I just actually was working with a client on that specific problem because she realized that things were just getting stuck at the intake stage. And it turned out they were getting stuck because of her. And that's frequently what happens. We're the block. Yeah. So we worked through the intake and set up a cleaner process that removed her from the process entirely and worked out the scripts that her staff needed, et cetera. So developing clients, developing processes such as intake or business flow. So clients will come to me and say, we get all this business in, but it's not flowing properly. And it's really a delegation issue. They don't call it that, but that's really what it is. And then I have some clients that come to me and say, you know what, I need to start working on my exit strategy. And I'm not even sure what it looks like. And so we will work through that, look at what the options are and figure out what her best plan is. So it's really, marketing is huge. Management of the business processes is a big issue. Or I know that within the next 5 years or so, I'm going to transition out. How am I going to do that?
Yeah. Is there ever a time when it's management of people that they're having challenges with too?
Yes. And from hiring to firing to, I don't want to have to fire Susie or Fred. They do good work most of the time, but here's the hiccups. And so let's work through that. How do we manage that? And how do we manage the assignments? Because you don't want to get stuck thinking that people should be assigned tasks or work based on their title. I found that was one of the big mistakes that I made in the process. Don't base it on title. You really want to obviously look at people's skills very closely, but also personality. That has a huge impact on the work that they're going to do best.
I've worked with so many people who are excellent technicians, excellent professionals, and they weren't taught any of these other skills.
No.
I'm guessing when you became a lawyer, that wasn't part of the bar exam. Like, how do you manage an employee?
No, it was not part of the training, and it's difficult. It's easy to have the great conversations with the people you're working with. You're doing a great job. You just were outstanding in that case. It's the difficult conversations that we all want to run and put our head in the sand and avoid them like the plague. And yet what happens is, as you well know, if you don't have those conversations, if you let the negative type behavior continue, that affects the rest of the team in a very bad way, because they look and say, well, he's not doing what he should be doing, and I'm doing what I should be doing and more. Yeah. Why is that? That's not fair. So you don't want to ruin the morale of the great team that you have because one or two people are not really measuring up.
Great point. And also, you're not probably taught marketing or developing businesses like the intake. All of these things we don't know until we dive into it.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know where to start. And that's really where I found myself. I was really floundering because I didn't even know where to start. Yeah. And I had some great mentors who were men, and they were great, but I found I just didn't relate well with them. They were good people and I liked them, but I didn't relate well. So I learned a lot that was helpful, but I really needed somebody I could relate to better. And I knew that I needed to find a woman, and I just had a terrible time doing it.
Yes, not as many female business coaches out there. And there are unique circumstances that we experience, whether it be with our family or just the way that we relate. And the world is becoming different, but I'm at a certain age that it definitely has been a more masculine professional environment, and a lot has changed. But that means that we've had to kind of find our way a lot of times, and still continue to do that sometimes.
Yeah. And the law still is built on the traditional male model of how a business works, when there is, honestly, the man is the lawyer and he's working and his wife is home doing everything else. And that's the model. And so he can devote 12, 14 hours a day, to climbing the ladder, et cetera. And that just doesn't work for many, 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 many women. And I also feel that women approach problems in business differently. It's not better or worse. It's a different approach. And we look for different types of solutions. And again, not better or not worse, but it is different. And I felt like I was banging my head against the wall a lot because I just didn't have that really good synergy with the mentors I was working with.
Absolutely. I've had the same experience, Sharon. It's nice to actually talk about that. What are some of the feelings that your clients are experiencing when they contact you? So they know they're having specific problems in their business, but how is that making them feel?
They are first very frustrated, disappointed many times in themselves because they're having so much trouble, disappointed in their business, and at times feeling like maybe I'll just throw my hands up and walk away. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. So very high level of frustration and angst and anxiety, all of which is completely understandable. But that's what we want to work on. First of all, let's just take a deep breath. And that's usually what I say when we, start our work. Okay, I want you to just take a deep breath. We can work this out. We can figure this out and get a great plan together for you. But to be able to do that, you do have to get yourself in a relaxed state because, when you make decisions out of angst and anxiety and panic, they are absolutely the worst decisions you're ever going to make.
Yeah. Business owners are smart people. You can't start a business without having a certain level of intelligence and courage to go for it. So one of the problems is that we're smart. And that means that when we get frustrated with problems we're not sure how to overcome, I think I know I do tend to be very hard on myself. I should be able to get past this. I should be at a different place. There's a lot of shoulds that enter into our conversations in our head that really helps to talk to a business coach to get those shoulds out and understand how some of these things are not our fault, related to what we would have never been taught previously. So how do you specifically work with them to help them solve those problems?
I have two ways that I work with clients. One is I do what I call a half-day intensive, where somebody comes to me and says, I have this one issue I really want to get worked out. And so we will take a half day or a full day if they want it, but typically it's a half day to get started. And we will focus on that one issue. We will, break it down into all of its parts. We will figure out how to resolve it. We will come up with the plan to do that. And then depending on what the issue is, like with the client I was working with related to intakes, what she really needed was a script for the correct people. So she needed the script, and then she needed to identify who was the correct person or persons to actually do that work. So that's what we ended up with. With other clients, it might be a strategy where we develop certain steps to be followed and an implementation schedule. So that would be the half-day intensive. And then the client, of course, then is responsible for the implementation.
Right.
For other clients who really feel like I've got problems I need to work on and I need ongoing support to make sure that I'm taking the steps, or if as I start to implement and run into questions or problems, I want the support to help me through that, then we'll do 6-month one-on-one coaching where we will set up the plan initially and then do weekly calls to see what's going on and where they need help. And halfway through, reassess, at the 3-month level, and then reset our goals. So that's how I work with them.
When you're growing a business, you will resolve certain problems and then you'll have new ones arise. So it's great to have that ongoing communication and accountability too, to get some of the things done, because it's easy to forget about them.
Very, very easy. Yes. And then you get 6 months down the road and say, gee, I really haven't made any progress, have I? Still have this plan I haven't started to implement yet. Yeah.
Is there a difference between the way that you were taught as lawyers to write and communicate and the way that you need to do that in the world to market and attract clients?
Sure. Because when you're writing as a lawyer, when you're writing a motion or a brief, just the facts, ma'am. So you're focused on the facts, but you're also focused on your argument and how you can use existing case law to support the position that you're taking. So that's a type of style of writing that you would not use anywhere else in your life, ever. And with marketing, you're not focused on any of that. You don't have citations in marketing. You're not looking at the facts. You're looking at the problems. What problem is your client experiencing? How does it make them feel? As you've asked me several times, what can you do to help them resolve that problem? So it's an entirely different way of thinking when you sit down to write. Yes, that's a great question.
You're welcome. I'm only asking the things that I've experienced myself. I started out in accounting. So
okay. Then you know.
I understand. Shifting from a technical mindset and a technical writing to marketing it's a whole different way of doing things. And I found that marketing both has an art and a science component to it. So I gravitate towards it, but it is difficult. It was difficult to shift that mindset. And so I could see how your clients would appreciate your help with creating some of those marketing messages and connecting with those clients that they're trying to find.
Absolutely. Just pulling the information out and the questions that I will ask to pull the information out. And you can see then the light bulbs start to go off. Like, I've never thought about that. Yes. I want to tell people all about the legal side of stuff. They could care less about the legal side of stuff. They just want to know, how can you help me solve this awful problem I have?
Yes, right? Exactly. Yeah. And, for the most part, we probably understand that you are competent as a lawyer. So for you to put that at the top of your website, for anybody to really focus on that on their homepage of their website is good, but it's not as helpful as what am I going to do for you and how am I going to do it? And do I understand you?
That's correct. Yeah. All of the lawyer accolades, I tell clients, listen, it's great. It's impressive. We're all impressed as lawyers by it. It means absolutely nothing to a client, nothing. They really don't care about all that. That's all nice. But like, as we were discussing, it's all about the client and how can you help me solve this problem?
So what would be your best piece of advice for a new business owner, a woman who's just starting her own practice?
Sure. One piece of advice that I got that I would say was incredibly helpful, you just always bear it in mind, keep your overhead low. Now, in these days where you may not need a brick and mortar office, that's helpful because you don't have to deal with rent and all of the issues that brings. But it's something to always keep in mind that you don't need to have the fanciest bright, shiny object that's just come out. You need to figure out what is essential for you to run efficiently and stick with that. The other piece of advice I would give is chart your own course, go your own path. It's not going to happen right away because as you move into the business and you begin to learn some things, you make decisions about which way you want your business to go. But don't feel like, well, this is what lawyers have always done, so I need to do that. You can chart your own path.
I love that piece of advice, Sharon. And it's one of the best parts of being your own business owner is you get to create what works for your lifestyle, your personality, what you love to do. It's so much fun.
Yes.
So Sharon, what should our audience do if they'd like to connect with you?
Well, go to my website, boldwomenlawyers.com. And there you can download my solo success guide. And then that will put you on my email list. So I will be able to send you lots of great tips every week about business or just some fun stuff. I recently got a puppy, so I'm talking a lot about my puppy now. So I do throw in some fun things because business is great, but you can't be all business all the time.
That is fun, Sharon. Too bad your puppy's not in the room with you.
No, because he'd be barking up a storm. I made sure he was not in the room.
All right. Well, thank you for that. But next time, maybe you'll hold your puppy up.
Maybe I will. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, Sharon, thanks again for being here today. I appreciate it so much.
My pleasure.
Be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss any of our small business success strategies and click on the links below for more helpful free resources.